The room was already clapping when I realized nothing in it was meant for me. I was halfway through lifting my glass when my mother's voice carried across the private lounge, smooth and practiced. "To Sienna," Lydia said, smiling like this moment had been rehearsed for weeks. "The bravest one in this family, the one who dares to dream." Applause rose again. My sister accepted it like she was born into the sound. The story in the video is a creative work by Family Afterlight. All characters and events are fictional, crafted to convey a humanistic message and the values of family. I finished raising my glass and smiled because that was my role. Not the dreamer, not the risk-taker, the steady one. Sienna leaned toward me as the clapping faded. "Can you believe this?" she whispered. "They actually came." "They did," I said. "That's good." She laughed lightly. "You always say that like you're my manager. I'm just happy for you." Across the table, my father, Victor, nodded once in my direction. "You made it work," he said, like he was checking off a task. "Good." My mother turned back to the guests. "And of course," she added, waving her hand vaguely, "none of this would happen without people who keep things stable." Her eyes flicked toward me for half a second, long enough to land, not long enough to thank. A woman from Sienna's creative team leaned over. "You must be the sister," she said, "the responsible one." I felt the words settle on my shoulders. "That's Maya," Sienna said. "She's amazing with logistics. Logistics, not love, not pride." A server refilled our glasses. Sienna launched into a story about her brand relaunch, her voice bright, carefully vulnerable. Everyone leaned in. I leaned back. If you're listening to this right now, wherever you are, take a moment and notice who always picks up the slack in your world. You don't have to comment. Just notice. My mother's hand brushed my arm as she passed behind my chair. "Thank you for coming," she murmured. "I know you're busy." "Busy. Not important. Useful." I nodded. "Of course." And that was when I understood something I had never said out loud before. I wasn't here to be celebrated. I was here to make sure the night didn't fall apart. The applause had thinned into conversation when the hotel manager approached our table. He didn't look at my parents. He didn't look at Sienna. His eyes found me like he had been trained to do exactly that. "Ms. Chen," he said quietly, holding a leather folder against his chest. "Whenever you're ready." My mother's hand paused mid-gesture. Sienna kept smiling, still talking to a guest about branding colors and audience reach. I blinked. "Ready for what?" The manager glanced at the folder, then back at me. "The event charges. You're listed as the authorized payer." The words landed without sound. My mother leaned in before I could speak. "Yes," Lydia said gently, as if she were clarifying a seating arrangement. "That's correct." I opened the folder. The total sat at the bottom in clean black type, $4,980. Venue minimum, service charge, event coordination fee. I closed it once, opened it again. The number didn't change. I thought Sienna's brand was covering this. I said, keeping my voice even. Sienna finally looked over. "What?" She laughed. No, this is just the launch dinner." "The launch dinner," I repeated. My father set his glass down. "It's one night," Victor said. "Don't make it bigger than it is." I looked at my mother. "When was my card added?" She smiled, soft and patient. "Weeks ago. Just temporarily. You know how complicated these bookings can be." "I wasn't told." Lydia's hand settled on my arm, light as a suggestion. "You have steady income." "Maya, this helps everyone." The manager shifted his weight. "I can come back," he said, sensing something he wasn't paid to name. "No," my mother said quickly. "It's fine." Sienna frowned. "Wait, you're upset about this." Her voice dropped. "In front of everyone, I'm asking a question." I said. Victor leaned back, his expression already tightening. This isn't the place. Then when was... I said, and felt the air change. My mother's smile hardened. Don't embarrass your sister. I looked at the folder again. $4,980. Not an accident, not confusion, a decision already made. The manager cleared his throat. Ms. Chin. I closed the folder carefully and slid it back toward him. The brand should pay for its own launch, I said. Silence fell fast and sharp. Maya, my mother hissed. Sit down. I stood instead. I'm stepping out, I said, my voice steady. Enjoy the night. No one followed me as I walked away from the table. The door closed behind me, and for the first time all evening, no one needed me to hold anything together. The door closed behind me with a soft click, not the dramatic slam I had imagined for years. The air outside felt sharper, cleaner. I walked a few steps before my legs realized they were moving. Maya! Aaron's voice came from behind me. He caught up quickly, his coat half-buttoned, his expression already set in that careful way he used when he didn't want to push. You didn't say goodbye, he said. I didn't trust myself to, I replied. He nodded once. Do you want to sit for a minute? I shook my head. If I stop, I might turn around. He didn't argue. He opened the car door instead. Inside, the silence settled between us. Not awkward. Waiting. I wrapped my hands together in my lap and stared at them. I was bracing for the familiar drop. The rush of panic, the tightness in my chest that usually followed moments like this. It didn't come. Aaron glanced at me. Are you okay? I don't know, I said honestly. I'm waiting to feel bad. He didn't smile. And nothing's happening. The car rolled forward. Streetlights passed in steady intervals. I kept waiting for the script to kick in, the urge to apologize, the urge to explain that I hadn't meant to make anyone uncomfortable. I thought my phone would already be blowing up. I said, It probably is. Aaron replied, You're just not looking. I exhaled slowly. I should feel guilty. Should you? He asked. Not accusing, not defending. I searched for the answer and found only a quiet space where the guilt used to live. For years, I said. Every time I said yes when I wanted to say no, I told myself it was temporary, that it would balance out. Aaron's hands tightened on the steering wheel. And tonight, I said no. I said, and the world didn't end. We pulled up in front of our building. The windows were dark, peaceful. Aaron turned the engine off. You didn't do anything wrong. I nodded, not because I fully believed him yet, but because something in me was finally willing to listen. I opened the car door and stepped out, lighter than I had any right to feel. Whatever was waiting on my phone, it could wait. For once. I wasn't in a hurry to fix anything. My phone was still face down when I woke up. I knew what would be on it before I touched it. I could feel the weight of the night pressing through the screen, waiting. I picked it up anyway. The notifications stacked quickly, one name repeating until it stopped looking like a name at all. Mom, you really embarrassed your sister. Dad, call me. This is not how family handles things. Sienna, do you have any idea what you did to me tonight? I sat up in bed and scrolled. No one asked if I got home safely. No one asked if I was upset. No one asked why I had said no. They all knew what they needed from me, and it wasn't an explanation. It was compliance. A voicemail came through from my mother. I didn't play it. The transcription preview was enough. You've always been the reasonable one. Lydia's voice read back to me. I don't know why you chose to act like this. Act like this? As if I had knocked over a table instead of closed a folder. Another message from Sienna followed almost immediately. You humiliated me in front of people who matter, investors, collaborators. They think we're unstable now. We're unstable. I repeated silently. I typed, then erased, then typed again. I didn't send anything. Aaron watched me from the kitchen doorway. "They're not slowing down," he said. "They won't." I replied, "They never do." My father called next. I answered before I could overthink it. "This ends now," Victor said, skipping hello. "You made a scene. You fix it." I didn't make a scene. I said, "I declined to pay." "That's the same thing," he snapped. "You don't do that in public." "So, when—" I asked quietly. Was I supposed to say, "No"? Silence crackled on the line. "You're being difficult," he said finally. "Your mother is beside herself. I wasn't told about the charge," I said. "I wasn't asked." "You're focusing on details," Victor replied. "This is about family." The word landed where it always did, heavy and final. After I hung up, more messages came. An aunt I barely spoke to. A cousin asking if everything was okay in a way that meant it wasn't. Not one of them asked what the charge was. Not one asked how much it was. Not one asked if I could afford it. They assumed I could. They always had. Aaron sat beside me on the couch. "They're panicking," he said. "They're angry," I corrected, "because the system failed." What system? I looked at my phone. At the scrolling demands. The layered guilt. The urgency that only appeared when I stopped giving. The one where I absorbed the cost. I said, "And everyone else stays comfortable." My phone buzzed again. "Mom, we need to talk. You've lost your way." I set the phone down and turned the screen dark. For the first time. The silence that followed didn't feel like punishment. It felt like information. Aaron was the one who noticed it. He was sitting across from me at the kitchen table, my phone between us, the receipt photo still open on the screen. I had stopped looking at it hours ago. The number at the bottom had burned itself into my memory. $4,980. "Scroll down," he said. I already did. Lower. I leaned forward and dragged my finger across the screen. The itemized list slid up slowly. Drinks, staffing, event coordination. And then, below the total I thought I understood, a line I hadn't seen before. Future event hold. $2,250. That wasn't part of the dinner, Aaron said. My chest tightened. That doesn't make sense. It's dated for 6 weeks from now. I picked up the phone and stared at it. That has to be a mistake. Aaron didn't answer. He just watched me, like he already knew what the truth was going to be. I called the hotel. The manager from the night before answered, his voice polite, distant. I kept my tone steady. Professional. "I'm calling to confirm the details on the future event hold attached to my account." I said, "I want to make sure there's no error." He tapped on his keyboard. "1 moment," Aaron mouthed. "Breathe." "Yes," the manager said. "The hold secures a private anniversary reception in our upstairs lounge." My grip tightened on the phone. "Whose anniversary?" "Victor and Lydia Chen's," he replied. "Their 30th. I felt something go cold behind my ribs. "That event isn't mine," I said. "The card on file assumes financial responsibility." He answered carefully. "If the reservation is canceled past the deadline, the fee remains." I thanked him and hung up. Aaron leaned back in his chair. "They told you it was canceled. They told me they couldn't afford it," I said. I stared at the wall, replaying every conversation from the last month. My mother mentioning how quiet things would be this year, my father shrugging and saying next year would be better. "They weren't canceling," I said slowly. "They were hiding it. And using your name," Aaron added, "and my credit." I said. The realization landed fully then. The dinner wasn't the end of it. It was the entry point. The soft introduction to something bigger. They didn't just expect me to pay for the night, I said. They expected me to carry the risk. Aaron nodded. "If something went wrong, it would have been on you," I picked up my laptop and opened it without thinking. A blank spreadsheet appeared on the screen. I'm done guessing, I said. I want to see everything. Aaron stood and moved behind me, resting his hands lightly on my shoulders. I'm here. I started typing dates, amounts, descriptions. Each line felt less like anger and more like focus. Whatever this was, it wasn't confusion. It was design. The spreadsheet didn't argue with me. It didn't soften its language or rush to protect anyone's feelings. It waited, blank and patient, as if it had always known I would come back eventually. I labeled the first column date, the second reason, the third amount. Aaron pulled a chair beside me. Do you want help? I need to do this myself. I said, but stay. He nodded. I'm not going anywhere. I started with the easy ones, the things everyone remembered, the deposit for Sienna's first apartment, when her credit history wasn't ready yet, $12,000, the legal fees after my father's driving incident when he said it was a misunderstanding, $8,500, my mother's wellness retreat, framed as a necessary reset, $6,800. Each entry landed with a dull thud, like something heavy being placed on a table. Aaron watched the numbers stack. You kept everything. I told myself it was temporary. I said that they would pay me back, or at least stop needing me. I added more. Emergency flights, short-term loans, utilities I covered because someone forgot. Small amounts that didn't feel dangerous until they stood together. The total climbed steadily. 50,000, 70,000, 90,000. I stopped when it reached $94,600. Aaron exhaled slowly. That's a lot. That's only the part with receipts, I said. I opened a second sheet. At the top, I typed opportunity cost. Aaron frowned. What's that? The things I paid with time, I said. With silence. I listed the nights I canceled plans because someone needed me, the promotions I delayed because I was needed at home, the milestones where I stood in the background, clapping. I didn't assign numbers. I wrote descriptions instead. Missed anniversary dinner, delayed career move, being the last to speak. My fingers slowed. I thought I was being generous. I said. I thought this made me strong. Aaron leaned forward. What does it make you? Now I looked at the total again. $94,600. 6 years. It makes me a funding source, I said. Not a daughter. I leaned back and closed my eyes. For a moment, I expected the grief to hit, the sadness, the ache of realizing something was gone. Instead, there was distance. I don't feel angry, I said quietly. I feel finished. Aaron reached for my hand. That's not nothing. I know, I said. It's just different. I saved the file. The cursor blinked, waiting for a name. After a moment, I typed closed account. The words didn't shake. They settled. I looked at the screen, at the rows and columns that told the truth without raising their voice, for the first time. I wasn't wondering what I owed anyone. I was preparing to collect what I was owed back from myself. They didn't ask if they could come up. My phone buzzed once, then again, then settled into the kind of silence that meant someone had decided my answer didn't matter. Dad. We're downstairs. Buzz us in. Aaron looked at me from the kitchen. You don't have to. I do. I said. Not for them. For me. He nodded, but his jaw stayed tight. Do you want me here in the bedroom? I said. If I let you sit with me, they'll say this came from you. Aaron's eyes softened. It came from you. I need them to see that. I replied. I buzzed them in. The knock came a minute later, sharp and impatient, like they were already late for something they owned. I opened the door and stepped back. My father walked in first. Victor didn't take his coat off. He didn't look around. He moved as if my apartment belonged to him by default. My mother followed. Lydia's purse clutched to her side like a prop. Sienna came last, sunglasses on indoors, lips pressed together in a practiced line. Victor pointed at the couch. Sit. I didn't. I walked to the coffee table and placed a folder down between us. The sound was small, final. Lydia's eyes flicked to it and back to my face. Maya, she began, voice low, controlled. What you did was cruel. Sienna let out a breath that was meant to sound broken. I had collaborators there, people who took a chance on me. You made me look like a charity case. Victor's stare stayed fixed on me. You will apologize. You will pay what you owe. And you will stop acting like you're above your family. I waited until the last word stopped vibrating in the room. Are you finished? I asked. Lydia's mouth tightened. We're finished when you fix this. I'm not here to fix anything, I said. I'm here to close an account. Sienna scoffed. An account? Victor leaned forward. Don't be dramatic. I opened the folder and slid out the receipt photo first. The future event holds circled in red. I didn't look at them while I spoke. I looked at the paper. You listed my card as the authorized payer. I said, for the dinner. $4,980. Lydia's chin lifted. Yes, because you're stable. I turned the page slightly so she could see the circled line and the future event hold. I continued. $2,250. Sienna blinked. What is that? Lydia's eyes flashed, quick and warning. It's nothing. It's your anniversary, I said. Victor's expression shifted first, a tiny crack in his certainty. Sienna stared at Lydia. You said you weren't doing anything. We didn't want to burden you, Lydia said too quickly, and then to me, softer, pleading. We knew you were stressed. Maya, we were trying to protect you from feeling obligated. I laughed once, short and dry. You were protecting me from obligation by putting my credit on the line. Victor's voice sharpened. Watch your tone. My tone, I repeated. If I'm unstable, then it was irresponsible to use my credit. The room went quiet in a different way. Not tense. Exposed. Sienna's sunglasses came off slowly. Her eyes were red, but the shock underneath was real. Dad, she said. Did you know about this? Victor didn't answer her. He looked at me like I had committed an offense by naming the truth. Lydia leaned forward, palms open. We can reimburse the hold. No, I said. You can remove my card and cancel the reservation. Victor's laugh was cold. And embarrass us. You love that word, don't you? Liability, risk, as if we're strangers. You treated me like one. I said. Sienna's voice rose. So this is what you're doing. You're punishing me because I had a good night. This isn't about your night, I said, and slid the spreadsheet out next. This is about 6 years. Victor's eyes dropped to the pages, then snapped back up. Put that away. I laid it flat anyway. $94,600. Lydia's breath hitched. Maya, that's the total with receipts, I said. Rent deposits, legal fees, retreats, emergency flights, utilities, temporary help that never ended. Victor's face reddened. We raised you. You raised me to be useful, I said. And then you built a funding model around it. Lydia reached toward me, like she could touch the words back into my mouth. We are your parents, and I was your bank. I replied. Banks don't get to be guilted into staying open. Sienna stood. This is insane. You're acting like you hate us. I met her eyes. I don't hate you. I'm just not paying for the privilege of being tolerated. Victor's voice dropped. Dangerous. Do you know what people will say if this gets out? Your aunt, your cousins, your work. People already think you're rigid, difficult. Do you want them thinking you're unstable? 2. I didn't flinch. If you tell people I'm unstable, I'll forward them the invoice history attached to my name. Lydia's face went pale. You wouldn't. I already did the math. I said. Now I'm setting terms. I slid a small envelope onto the table. Inside was a printed page with 3 lines. "First," I said, "you remove my card from every account. Every vendor, every subscription, every hold." Victor's mouth opened. I held up a hand. "Second," I continued, "you return your key." Lydia's voice broke. "Maya, please, don't do this." "Third," I said, "you stop contacting me to demand. If you reach out with respect, we can talk. If you reach out with threats, I document it." Victor stared at me as if I had become someone he couldn't command. Slowly, he reached into his pocket and placed a key on the coffee table. It made a soft sound when it hit the wood. Lydia looked at the key like it was a sentence. Sienna looked at it like it was betrayal. None of them spoke as they stood. None of them apologized. They left one by one, coats still on, my doorway swallowing them without ceremony. When the door clicked shut, I didn't chase them. I didn't collapse. I picked up the key, held it for a moment, then set it beside the folder. Aaron stepped out from the hallway. Careful, like he wasn't sure if I would still be standing. I didn't scream. I said. Aaron's voice was quiet. "You didn't have to." 3 months passed without a single demand. At first, I kept waiting for the familiar surge, the late-night call, the urgent message framed as concern but sharpened by expectation. My phone stayed quiet on the coffee table, its screen dark, untouched. Aaron noticed before I did. "They really stopped," he said one morning, not quite trusting the calm. "They didn't stop," I replied. "They lost access." The words felt strange in my mouth. Clean. My bank notifications shifted slowly, almost politely. No unexpected withdrawals. No overlapping charges explained away as mistakes. For the first time in years, my balance stayed where I left it. "You're breathing differently," Aaron said one evening as we washed dishes side by side. "I'm sleeping," I said. All the way through, the silence had weight, but it wasn't heavy. It was spacious. A message did come eventually, not from my parents, from my aunt, Diane, someone who had watched quietly for years. "I hope you're taking care of yourself." She wrote. No questions, no instructions. I replied once. "I am." That was enough. Aaron sat with me on the couch that night, his leg pressed lightly against mine. "Do you miss them?" I thought about it carefully. "I miss the idea of them," I said. "I don't miss the version of me they needed." He nodded. "That makes sense." The spreadsheet stayed closed on my laptop. I didn't delete it. I didn't open it either. Knowing it was there felt like proof, not a threat. One afternoon, Aaron held up his phone. The hotel called. He said, they wanted to confirm the anniversary reservation. I felt my shoulders tense, then release. "What did you tell them that the card was removed weeks ago?" He said. They sounded surprised. "They'll manage," I said. We started making plans that didn't involve negotiation. A weekend away, a dinner chosen because we wanted it, not because it smoothed something over. Aaron smiled at me across the table. "You're lighter. I'm quieter." I corrected. There's a difference. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It didn't echo with what I should be doing or fixing. It held exactly what I had left after I stopped paying for peace. And for the first time, that was enough. We canceled the trip my mother had suggested months earlier without asking where we wanted to go. Aaron watched me stare at the confirmation email, my finger hovering over the cancel button. "You don't owe anyone an explanation," he said. "I know," I replied, and pressed confirm anyway. We booked something else instead, not an escape, a choice. When the receipt came through, I felt a small, unfamiliar steadiness in my chest. Nothing was borrowed. Nothing was promised to someone else later. The spreadsheet waited on my laptop like an old witness. I opened it once more, not to add anything, not to reread the totals. $94,600 stared back at me, tidy and final. I moved the file into an archive folder and closed the screen. Aaron leaned against the counter. Does it still hurt? It doesn't argue anymore. I said. It just exists. He smiled, relieved. That's different. A message arrived that afternoon from Sienna. Not an apology. Not an accusation either. Just a single line. I didn't know it went that far. I read it twice. I didn't reply. Aaron waited. You don't have to fix this one either. I'm not. I said. I'm letting it be true. We sat together as the evening settled in. The apartment felt quieter than it ever had, not because something was missing, but because nothing was being demanded. I used to think freedom meant leaving. I said. Turns out it meant staying and saying no. Aaron reached for my hand. You kept yourself. I nodded. I stopped trying to be worth keeping. If you've ever felt like love came with an invoice, or that peace required constant payment, you're not alone. You don't have to announce your boundaries to anyone. Sometimes the strongest decision is the quiet one that changes the math. My phone rested on the table, screen dark, no longer a countdown clock. I didn't check it. I didn't lose my family. I said softly. I lost the belief that I had to earn a place in it. Aaron squeezed my hand once. That's not a loss. Outside, the city carried on without noticing my absence from a role I had outgrown. Inside, everything felt intact. I turned off the light and let the room hold what remained. What I kept was enough.